My name is Phil Fletcher, and this is my plea to get all stakeholders involved in the educational process. In case you haven't heard, the educational system of the past is gone. This is, in part, due to advancements in technology, as well as changes in how students learn and interact with one another. Today's world is a blended one. Technology has been assimilated into virtually every phase of life. We carry little computers like phones and iPods in our pockets, and tablets and laptops on our backs wherever we go, which tends to never be too far from a good wireless connection. Since these devices travel with us as if they are extensions of our own bodies, it is no wonder that this dependency on technology has also managed to work its way into education. In an attempt to make learning easier and more interesting, teachers like me have adopted a blended learning approach. I hybridized my classroom by incorporating technology like websites and learning management systems like Schoology, while still providing in-class learning opportunities through collaboration and hands-on activities. Despite my best efforts to produce quality instruction and a healthy learning environment, I still have students who struggle. Homework still doesn't get turned in, test scores are a little lower than they should be, and there are more D's and E's than I want to have in my class. So what's the problem? We lack stakeholder ownership. Ed Fellian says that education sits on a three-legged milk stool. The three legs are parents, students, and teachers, and if one of those legs get removed, education falls. To help make my classroom a success, I'm going to need some help. I am asking that all stakeholders play a more active role in the development and implementation of my class. This is when the biggest difference can be made. This is my plea to get parents, students, and teachers involved in making education successful again. Students are in school for one sole reason: learning. They learn to interact. They learn how to think critically. They learn how to deal with stress, disappointment, and criticism. And they also learn how to follow directions and what they are interested in, hopefully leading to a future career. Recently, I've noticed an increasing need for students to learn something else: how to use technology appropriately. Technology's been getting abused a lot lately. Students are finding answers through quick searches on Google or with Siri. And I've also been seeing them communicate answers through social media. Sure, this saves time and energy for the students who want to be doing other things. Unfortunately, this takes away the purpose of the homework, which is to reinforce important ideas to help kids retain that knowledge. This way of completing assignments is detrimental to the learning process by influencing their ability to retain that knowledge, which happens through repetition and making meaningful connections. According to Piaget's constructivist theory, those things actually need to happen for learning to take place. Many students use technology the right way too. Rather than simply looking for answers, they may look for other ways to learn the information. They can collaborate through social media. Kids can also supplement learning with tutorial videos through sites like Crash Course by the Green Brothers. They can learn through conducting their own meaningful research. The main idea here is that despite what the instructor of a class does at school, kids can make learning fun and meaningful by creating their own blended course. Students can put some of the responsibility of acquiring knowledge on their own shoulders instead of expecting teachers to do everything. In doing this, they are constructing their own knowledge by building on a foundation of prior knowledge, just as Piaget told us. Since our students are changing and they learn differently today, we as teachers need to change as well. Our old role is gone. We are no longer the providers of knowledge, otherwise known as the sage on the stage. We do have a new role, though. We facilitate knowledge, and sometimes we're called guides on the side. We need to adopt and embrace this new role so that way kids can be successful. So how do we facilitate this knowledge? We can guide students to correct answers, but we should allow them to find them on their own. We should correct misconceptions as students are conducting their own research. We can provide feedback so the kids know how they are doing along the way, and we can demonstrate to the students how to find good accurate and credible resources. And at the same time, we can use that guidance to help us create our own websites and make them more credible. And we can do this by using 10-point rubrics. Students have been learning through cellular devices, computers, tablets, and video games for a long time now. If this is what children are comfortable with, then teachers need to adapt to teaching with those same devices. As Prensky once said, we need to teach digital natives with digital technology. By creating an environment that provides students with something familiar, they will not feel as intimidated by the new information being taught to them, so they're more likely to learn and perform at higher levels. Although teaching with tools familiar to students is important, we do have some setbacks in implementing them through distance learning. Prensky is quick to point out that today's teachers are digital immigrants. We typically remember life before cell phones, tablets, and laptops. Most of us were educated and trained using old methods and philosophies that don't see the same success today because we did not utilize those tools. Transitioning to a digital world requires a learning curve for us teachers. It's going to take some time for us to pick things up. To try to close this generational gap, we do have some solutions. We can go on to continuing education. For example, our master's degree in educational technology. Here we've learned how to use tools such as microlectures, badges, and gamification, all of which EDUCAUSE's 7 Things series has mentioned. In other classes, we've learned how to create our own websites. To discover how to teach with tools that learners are familiar with, we can observe what is trending with youngsters and finding a way to integrate it into the classroom. As we discover new methods and tools for teaching, there are some things that we have to keep in mind. Prensky speaks of digital wisdom. This is understanding how to balance human qualities and computerized components in the classroom. Too much of one over the other creates a detrimental imbalance to learning. The goal is to invoke passion through innovation while showing empathy at the same time. To show empathy, according to Bentley, we need to establish a social presence. This provides the human element needed by students, especially when computer-based learning can feel so isolating. Social presence shows students that they aren't in this alone. A social presence can be made through feedback and by posting through social media or on discussion boards. Well, what does social presence do? It creates social interactions between peers and instructors. Vygotsky told us that these peer interactions advocate learning. Collaboration leads to critical thinking. And one blogging teacher, Bergman, said, "The best thing I am teaching my students is how to be learners." Even with more tools in our teaching toolboxes, teaching today's digital natives can be quite challenging. In a 2007 study, Yen, Ko, Yen, Wu, and Yang point out that internet addictions are developing from constant connection to technology. This leads to distractions, symptoms of attention deficit and lack of focus, and lack in creativity. So how do we teach students who get easily distracted? We've developed some new concepts for teaching digital natives. Areola points out that learning objectives provide something easy for everyone to focus on. They highlight what a student is going to be able to do and how it will be measured or judged. Learning objectives can be easily supported digitally with microlectures, gamification, achievement badges, discussion boards, and many other teaching methods. All of this can be presented through a learning management system like Schoology or Canvas. Learning objectives can also be supported in the physical part of the blended classroom. The in-class part of learning is still relevant. Students get hands-on learning and face-to-face interaction. This provides a more realistic preparation for a career in the real world. Finally, using a form of distance learning provides another opportunity for student success. It gives parents the chance to get more involved in the learning process. Because having a good education is so critical to a successful life, parents need to become more involved in the development of their children. As parents, we have a new role too, and it is one of active guidance. The real world is competitive, and children need to learn through the experiences of their parents. Murphy points out that if there's an adult who cares about how a kid does in school, that kid can succeed. That means that more caring adults creates a greater support system for student success. So how can we as parents be more active in education? We can monitor student grades at home from online gradebooks. We can volunteer to get more actively involved in school. We also can ensure homework is being completed by looking at course calendars and syllabi that are provided by the teachers. And lastly, we can provide safety and consistency at home. Remember, if basic survival needs aren't being met, students can't focus or learn. We should have technology limitations at home. Otherwise, they will fatigue or become addicts if they sit in front of their cell phones, televisions, or video games the entire time that they're home. And also, by removing some of this extra fun, kids are provided with incentives to finish their schoolwork. We also should make sure that students are eating and that they have an enforced bedtime. Collect phones and games at night to make sure the youngsters are actually going to sleep. As you can see, education has changed because of the digital revolution. By default, the roles of parents, teachers, and the students in today's educational system have changed as well. Rather than digging our heels into the ground, it is time to embrace those new roles to help our educational system get back on the right track. We've all been told that it takes a community to raise a child. Now it's time to put those words into action and make a difference. Let's invest in our future by giving today's youth the best education possible.